Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? Today, what we're going to do is we're going to build SignalR and then we're going to integrate it into ASP.NET Core and we're also going to build it into a React app. So what's going to happen is that we'll build up an API and an endpoint where we can actually send the message, and then we'll build some components in React so we can actually send the message to the .NET Core, the ASP.NET Core API application, and then send the message back to the React app. All done through SignalR. So let's get going. Let's create an ASP.NET Core API application. So we need to select ASP.NET Core Web Application, like so. Let's give it a name. Around the code.react SignalR, and we will create that. Always takes a few moments. Here we go. So we need to select API. So let's select that and create it. So yep, loading up the project now. So yep, we've got all our boilerplate files in there. Need to make a slight change to the launch settings. So what happens is that it always loads up the weather forecast when you actually run it through IIS Express. I'm going to change it because we're going to create a client app folder, and that's where our React app will sit. Well, you don't wish to update now, you don't really want to watch that, do you? So we've done that. Next thing we need to do now is we need to go ahead and create the React app. So let's go ahead and do that. God, how small is that? That is really small. So we'll make it a bit bigger. No, doesn't seem to work, does it? Oh well, we'll have to live with that. Going to source repos, we created around the code React SignalR. Yeah, so let's go in there. So what we need to do now is we need to load up the terminal. And now we need to create our React app. So let's go ahead and do that. So we do yarn create React app. And then we're going to put it in a client app folder. So we specify that, and we want to use TypeScript. So hopefully that will go ahead and create it for us. Takes a few moments. Now you can create a React app through Visual Studio, but the only problem is that I couldn't find a way of doing it, so it created it as TypeScript. It was always doing it as JavaScript for some reason, but anyways. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Then after that, we need to go back to our ASP.NET Core application. We need to install a few things first. So we need to install Microsoft ASP.NET Core SPA services and SPA services extensions. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.SPA services. So it's still creating the React app at the moment, so it might be a little bit slow, but it will get there. Probably should have waited for the React app to finish, but anyways. Here we go. Yeah, it looks like this might be the final bit, then we might have our React app. No, it's still doing something else at the moment. And it looks like it's done now, all being well. Yes, I live along a main road, so if you hear sirens going past, that's they come down here a lot, put it that way, the emergency services. Right, so no, it's still doing stuff at the moment, but this is basically what it creates in our React app. So we're in our client app folder, and then yeah, it's created a couple of TSX files, which is TypeScript. We're only really going to be working with the app file in this demonstration. Right, so we've managed to also add our SPA services in. We need to add another one in as well, but I'm going to wait until the React app's finished, till it's decided. Oh, it's taken a while, isn't it? Yeah, really don't know what's going on there, but anyways, let's at least get it ready. So yeah, we're going to need SPA services extension as well, because what's included in that is the React development server. So what we can do is we can use Visual Studio to actually build the React app when we're running the application. So it's really quite good. So still doing stuff. Done. Right, React app's all done, all being well. Let's go ahead and install this extensions. What's this? To enable TypeScript compilation in your project, please install. Okay, we'll do that a little bit later, I think. If it causes problems, we might have to install that, but we'll leave it for now. Cool, so that's all done. So what we need to do now is we need to make a few changes to our startup file. So let's load that up. Can be a little slow at this point, so just bear with me on this, but here we go. So we've got our configure services here. What we need to do is we need to add the add SPA services, even not server services, add SPA static files. Now what we need to do with that is we need to configure the root path to it. So let's go ahead and do that, and it's configure.root path, and it's going to be in our client app, and then what it'll do is it'll build all the React files to the build folder. So we need to just tell Visual Studio, tell the ASP.NET Core application to do it in there. So that's all done, that's all good. Need a semicolon there, otherwise it's not going to work. Need to make another change as well, and this is where we need to use SPA, so single page application, in case you didn't know. So we need to go in there and do that. Again, we need to set the source path in here, so it will be set to client app. We don't need the build folder in this one, and we need to specify that if it's development, if we only want to be running this in development, we need to use the React development server, and we need to specify a script of start. And if we go back to our React file, if we look at the package.json, so that will represent, where can I find it? There it is, scripts and start. So you got, that's basically what it's going to run, React scripts.start. So when it's running in development mode, it's going to run that script, which is cool. So we need a semicolon there. So that's all good. Yeah, well, let's just check and make sure this is all working first, because it'd be a bit of a crime if we did all this, did all the work, and the application isn't even working. So what we want now is to run our React app through Visual Studio, through this web application. So we're just going to run the application and see what happens. So it takes a few moments. So what we're going to be doing after this is we're actually going to be adding SignalR in both projects. So we're going to add it in the React app first, and then we're going to add it into the ASP.NET Core application as well. So here we go, we've got it loading up. It's thinking about it. Still thinking about it. So this is one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to run the React development server in production mode. You've almost got two servers running at the moment, and it's just not needed. What you do is just build all the React files and I think converts it into JavaScript for production, because otherwise you'd be waiting here a long time as well. Here we go, so it's loading up. There we go, so it says edit source at TSX and save to reload. So if we go into the app.tsx, you can see it's exactly rendering what's actually in that file. So that's all good. So we can stop this for now. What we need to do next is we need to go ahead and add SignalR into our React application first. Let's go ahead and do that. If it's going to wake up. So it's, what is it? It's Microsoft SignalR. There is another one, ASPNET Core SignalR, but I think that one's out of date. I think this is the latest one. It's 3.1.5, and that's the one I'm using. And I've actually done the wrong command there. I've actually done the one for the NuGet package manager console. I need to do a yarn add. So let's go ahead and do that. That's the command I need to run in a minute. Well, sort of like that. So if we do yarn add Microsoft SignalR. Hopefully this time it will work. Yeah, that's good. So all is good on that. If we have a look, we'll need to reload the package file again. But what we can do is we can actually see that it's installed. So let's have a look. Can we see it in there? Can't actually see it in there, to be honest. So I would have thought it would have added it in there. But I can't actually see it in there. I might run that one more time just to make sure, because I'm not convinced that actually it's no, it didn't actually. I was pointing it to the wrong place. That might cause some issues. Anyways, let's go ahead and do this, see what happens. While we're doing that, we might as well go ahead and install it on our .NET application. And we need to, it's Microsoft ASPNET Core SignalR.client. So that's what we need for that. Is that looking better now before we do that? Let's reopen it. Yeah, there it is. It's up the top there. Microsoft SignalR 3.1.5. Now we're going to install exactly the same version on here. And I've lost that. Let's go ahead and do that again. Install the package. So we will have to do some configurations in our .NET application in a minute. Right, that's all added. So let's go ahead. We need to now do some configuration. So we're in the startup, that's convenient. What we need to do is in configure services, which is up here, we just need to add SignalR. And hopefully it'll be on there. There we go, add SignalR, that's all good. There is a SignalR core as well. Don't know what the difference is between the two, but we'll go ahead with that one for now. Next, what we need to do is we need to create a SignalR message hub. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to call it message hub. So what we're going to do is we're going to send messages from the React app to the .NET Core app, and then the .NET Core app will send a message back to the React saying it's got the message. So relatively straightforward, nothing too complicated in this demo. So we'll call the folder hubs and let that create itself. So yeah, that's all good. Just need to wait a few moments, create the folder. And then we're going to call this message hub. So that's going to go ahead and create it. What we then will need to do is we'll need to basically route the hub to a particular endpoint. So we're going to route it to / message. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute. We need to inherit the hub, I believe. Yes, just hub. Don't think there's anything else we need to do with that. And we need to just load in the assembly as well, which is going up there. Microsoft ASPNET Core SignalR. That's all good. So we've got a hub in place. We need to, so we've done that. We need to map the hub next. So we can do that down here. So if we need to go into endpoints. Map hub. And then we called it message hub, didn't we? Yep. Called it message hub. And then, yeah, we're going to route it to / message. So that's all good. Nice. So what we need to do next is we need to create a controller. So we're going to get rid of this weather forecast one, this default one. Anytime today. Yeah, I think there's a few issues running a React app with TypeScript, because it isn't normally this slow. So I'm not too sure what's going on with this. It shouldn't be taking this long. But anyways, we've done that. Let's create a new empty controller. Let's click on add. So we're going to call it message controller, and it's going to route to API / message. When it wants to. Cool. So yes, we need an empty controller, and we need to create it as a message controller. So we'll add that on. So what we're going to do in our message controller is we're going to inject our message hub into it, and then we're going to use the message hub to send out a message through one of the methods in it. So here we go. So what we need to do first is we need to specify that it's an API controller. That gives you all your JSON stuff and everything. We also need to specify the route, which will be API / message. So that'll be the route for the controller. And then we need to create a new method, well, a new view, isn't it? Action? Yeah, it's an action, isn't it? It's controller action view. Specify the fact that we're going to be doing a post method in it. So we've got that on there. Oh no, first we need to do a constructor, and we need to pass in the actual hub for it. So the hub that we created, which was message hub, you have to pass it in through this iHub context for some reason. So that's okay. So we've passed that through there. Normally do, this is a C#8 thing, normally do a not null check. With C#9 it's going to become a lot easier. You just need to add an exclamation mark. But that's not going to be out till the end of the year. I believe it's released with .NET 5, so let's just do a read-only property up here, and then what we'll do is we'll store our message hub in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can do that equals message hub. Right, so that's that all good. We're going to change the name of this. No, we're not, because we've already done that. What we need to do next is we just need to create a new class. We'll call it message post. We're just going to have a string in here of message. So what we'll do is when we send the JSON over, we're going to have a key of message and have the message inside that key. So it's basically going to pass it automatically into this message post class. So So we go in there, so that's all good. So next thing we want to do is we want to make this asynchronous. So we're going to have a task in there, and we're going to include the async keyword there. That's all good. What we're going to do next is, so basically every time this method is hit, it will basically send a message to all clients that we're going to specify in here, saying that we've basically received the message. So that's what we're going to do now. So we go to Message Hub, all clients. So you can, just one word, just one point with that is that you can specify users as well. So if it's for one particular user, you can do that, but we're not going to look into that today. We're just going to send it to all clients at the moment. So this is all clients that are connected through SignalR. So we're going to create a send to React method, which you'll see in the React app in a minute. And it's going to be the message, and then we'll use the message post.message has been received. So we're going to do that. And then we're just going to return a 200 response. We're not going to actually return anything other than that. So it returns an OK there, as you can see. I'm getting an error there for some reason. Not too sure why. Oh, it's expecting a semicolon. That is why. There you go. So that will return a 200 response. All is good on that. Nice. So that's all good. Now we can move over to our React app. And we're going to make some changes into this app class here. So what we need to do first is get rid of all this for now. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new React.fc function component, I believe it stands for. So we need an arrow up there. So first thing we need to do is we need to build up the hub connection for SignalR. So let's so it's going to be new SignalR, which is probably going to, well, it's going to throw an error, but what we can do, no, we should be able to import it all being well. So we say import from Microsoft.SignalR. Is that right? No, that is case sensitive. So is that working? No, we don't seem to be, it doesn't seem to like that at the moment, or does it? No, it's not picking that up for some reason. Let's go ahead and look, see what's happening. Let's see, so cannot find the module at the moment, which is weird because I'm pretty sure we installed it. But we did have that issue, didn't we? Where it went in the wrong folder. So curious to see if that's still causing an issue. Maybe if I remove that there and that one. Because yeah, it should be able to find it. It's definitely in there. So if we close that down and reopen it back up. Let's at least have a go and see if we can actually see if this actually runs, because it might just be that it might be an IntelliSense problem. Wouldn't surprise me. Let's see if our actual .NET Core application will actually run. So it's having a think about it. course, it could be something to do with case sensitive as well, but I wouldn't have thought so. So no, it's still complaining about an error. Can't find the module, so we might need to reinstall that because it's definitely complaining about it at the moment. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's give it another go, see what's going on there. While we're going ahead and do that though, I think we'll build up our React application. Obviously we're going to get the errors with SignalR for the time being, which is a bit of a pain, but we'll get through it. So we need to find the hub connection builder, and then we'll say with URL, so this will be our URL which we declared in the .NET Core application. So with URL, and then we can just run the build like so. Are we having any luck? So that, it's not, bizarrely, it's not actually throwing an error, but well, certainly it's only throwing an error up there for some reason. I'm just going to check I've got the spelling right as well. Oh, there we go. Silly me. It's a / that was missing. It's always the silliest problems, isn't it? Nice. So we can actually go ahead and do this now. Hub connection.start. So we've got that there. So that's built up connection. We're building our connection with SignalR and we're starting it up. Now what we're going to do here is we're basically going to build up a list of all the messages. So there we go, list of string. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build up a message React function component. And what that's going to do is basically show all the messages. It's going to add to this list that we've just created. And then it's going to show all the messages, all the responses it gets back from the ASP.NET Core application. So we're going to create a message props, and that's basically going to store our connection. So yep, we'll declare it as a SignalR.hub application. Now we're going to create our messages React component. So it's a react.fc, and what we're going to do here is we need to pass in a generic type of message props, which is what we just created up the top there. So let's go ahead and do that. So, yep, we've created that. It's going to throw a message because we're not actually returning anything at the moment. Now we're going to set up an actual use state. So what we do is we fire something to the use state to actually update the React component, the actual component. So there might be a better way of doing this, but this is the way we're going to do it for now. Is we're basically going to, every time a message is created, it's basically going to set a new date, which will allow us to update the messages. There might be a better way of doing it, but I think for now, this should work, all being well. So let's go ahead and do that. So there we go. We've got the use state there. It's throwing an error for that. We need to basically import it into the file. So we should be able to do a quick fix. Yeah, add use state into the React folder. So that's all good. Now we're going to use the effect as well, and this allows us just to run it once, I believe, because otherwise every time we're updating the messages it's going to keep on updating this next line of code, and this is basically going to create the send to React, so it's going to look out for any messages that get sent through that. Obviously, if you remember, in our controller on our ASP.NET Core application, we're going to be firing a message through that method, and this is basically going to allow it to listen to it. So let's have a look. So what we need to do is we need to go to message props. So that's what we've passed in there. Got our hub connection, and we've got on send to React. It's lowercase s at the beginning. And then we've got our message. So message is going to get passed through. So I can show you that in the controller again. Don't know why I've got that open. So yeah, it's going to be passing through as a string. So we've called it message in here. We're basically calling the parameter as message, and we're going to push it into this array, this list array up here that we've created. So we've got that there. And then we're going to set a date of new date, and what that's basically going to do is it's basically going to refresh this messages function component here. So we can basically, because what we're going to do in a minute is we're going to actually render all the messages stored in the list, and we're going to return that. So that is literally what we're going to do next. So need to add that, otherwise it will not work. And then so now we need to do a return, and we do list.map. We do a message. So we're going to pass in the message and the index. Now it likes to have unique keys every time, so we're going to add a unique key in here. So we would do message, and then we'll pass in the index. So now it's got a unique key every time, which is good. So we've got a P there as well. And then what we're going to do there, do we need to do anything? Yes, we need to pass in the message. Of course we do. So yeah, every message that's in there, it's going to be wrapped around a P tag, which is all good. Obviously getting an error at the moment because we need to close off these empty brackets. Nice, so we're getting an error there. We need to import that in, and it's part of the React library. So you've got use state and use effect there. That's all good. So what we need to do next is we just basically need to call this into our app, and then it will basically return a list of all our messages, which is good. So let's go ahead and do that. So we pass in the messages. We need the hub connection, which is up here. So it's this hub connection here. We need to pass in a reference to it. So go ahead and do that. Right, that's all good. We're not getting any errors now, which is good. So all being well, we should be able to run that through our ASP.NET Core application. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Postman to test out the messaging. So we're going to basically use Postman to run this method, this create method. So how are we getting on? It's still building at the moment. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll send an API, a post, HTTP post verb request to this message controller. And because this hasn't got any special route, it's going to go automatically to the create method. So that's going to be set as a default. So here we go. So yeah, it's loading up our client app, which is all good. I'm going to load up Postman while it's thinking about doing that. So here we go. We've already set up the test method anyways. We need to change the IP to that because I think it's 44351. And we're doing it as an application JSON. I'm going to send a message for it. So once the application loads up, yeah, it's empty at the moment. But once we run our request through Postman, it should come up with the message that it states in here. Basically, the message, whatever message we're sending, has been received. Let's go ahead and see if that works. So hopefully we get a 200 response, which we do. That's all good. And yeah, you can see it's already added that to our client app, which is all good. But let's just send another one and just make sure that it's storing all the messages for us. So we're just going to say, hello world. I think people still use that, don't they? Don't know. They used to about 15 years ago. Right, hello world. Yep, so we got 200 response. There you go. You can see, so that's all working. That's all good. So what I want to do finally is, at the moment we're using Postman, but I sort of want to build the functionality to be able to do it in our React app. So we have a text box and a button. It's going to be a lot easier, a lot better to demonstrate as well. And what I also want to do is just demonstrate it in another browser. So we'll have two clients set up, because the good thing about SignalR is that all clients connected in this instance will see the same message. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I need to do is I need to create a new function component in here. I'm going to call it send message. So it's part of the React function component. So we've got that in there. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a string of message, and this will basically represent what's in our text box. So we're going to use the state again. So by default it's going to be empty. So we've done that. What we need to do next is we basically need to set up a function where when the text is changed, we need to be basically updating this message. There doesn't seem to be any sort of built-in two-way binding, which I think there might be with Angular, but not with React, I don't think. So we set up a message change, and then we need to pass in the event as a parameter. So it's change event, and it's of HTML input. We're going to set up a input element to store all our text in. Right, that's that done. So we've got that there. So we just check that there's an event and an event target, because the event target's going to actually have the value of the text box in there. So we've done all that, and then we just need to call this set message up here. And so that will basically go in there, and we need event.target.value. That will have the actual value. So we've got that in there. That's all good. Lastly, what we need to do is we need to, well, first of all, actually, jumping ahead of myself here, is we'll actually do the return. So we're going to do a label here, and the label is going to specify enter your message. Got that in there. After that, this is where we're going to do our input type of text, and the on change, we're going to fire it up to this message change function here. So you just simply wrap it around curly brackets like that, and you can see it's already gone through. And we also need to specify the value of message. So that will be, let's do that, let's close that off. That message is basically up here. So when you set the message, when you basically run that, it basically sets the message in that variable there. Right, so that's all good. Right, lastly, we need to create a button. So when we click on the button, we're actually going to send it off to our API, and then that will send a message back to our application or all clients that are connected to it. So we're going to have a button, and it's going to be add message, and we're going to have to create an on click, and this is going to be message submit, which we haven't created yet, so it's going to throw an error. That is what we're going to do now. So before we do that, let's just sort out the errors that we'll get in here. That's all good. That needs to have a / in. So yeah, the only error we're getting at the moment is the fact that message submit doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and do that. So message submit. So we need to once again pass in an event. The event is react.mouse event. So wrap that in curly brackets. Once again, we check to see that the event actually exists, and if so, we use the fetch method. So what we do is we'll call our endpoint, so it's localhost, I've forgotten the number, 44351, API message. So we can do that. And then we need to specify that the method is a post method. And then headers, we then need to specify that we're sending through application JSON. We're sending through JSON. So we need to accept it. And then we need to specify a content type of application JSON. Nice, that's all good. And then the body, what we need to do is we need to use the JSON string of 5 to convert it into a JSON, and then we'll pass through the message. So the message will be there, and this message here is basically going to correspond. If we go back to our controller, it's going to correspond to that message post here. And as you can see, we're using the message post as a parameter in the create method. So that's all good, I think. So yeah, last thing we need to do is once we've sent it off, we just need to reset the message back to an empty string. Right, so that's what we need to do next. Last thing we need to do actually before we can run it is we need to include our send message function component in our app so we can actually send the messages. So we'll go ahead and do that. So is that all good? Yeah, we need to just add an empty an empty end tag at the end. Right, that's all good. Really must stop saying that actually. Keep on saying that. Let's run our application and see if it's all going to work. I think it will. And while I'm there, I'm going to show you having two applications connected, and I can show you how it works. Well, basically how it works. It basically show you that how many browsers or how many clients you've got connected, they all show the same message. So we've got our Firefox here, so we'll hook it up to the same URL. So yeah, it's got a invalid security certificate. Should still be able to run though. A little surprised though that it doesn't do it on Chrome, it only does it on Firefox for some reason. Not too sure why, but anyways. So it's still loading up at the moment. All being well though, it shouldn't take too much longer. And what we should have is we should have a text box and a button, and at this point we won't actually have any messages because we haven't sent any at the moment. So that's our Chrome, and it's just loading up in Firefox now. So whilst it's actually doing that, I might just make sure and test that it's actually working. So let's send the message to us. Oh no, that didn't work, did it? Why did that not work? Let's try it again. No, that didn't work for some reason. We hooked it up all right, didn't we? Yeah, we've got send message in there. Just want to check that we've hooked it up all properly. Message submit. Let's just check and see if we're getting an error from the API, because it could be something to do with that. We can see what's going on here. So if we go into developer tools, and hopefully that will load up. Let's just see if we might be getting an error. Hopefully we are. So what we're getting, all that's, yes, that's why. Let's continue that. Hopefully that should be all right now. Yeah, so it's got the connection. Let's try that again. Yes, there we go. Finally got it working. So let's just send another one. Yes, that's better. Right, And as you can see in Firefox, because it's already been connected to the client, to the SignalR, it's basically received the message as well. So let's send a message in Firefox, and let's see if Chrome, our Chrome application, or running it in Chrome, will actually be able to receive the message. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's put hello world again. Cool. So yeah, you can see Chrome and Firefox, they both show the same messages. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully going forward, we'll implement the clients bit and sort of maybe go for specific clients, so we can basically only send messages to particular clients. We may have a look at that, and if you've got any suggestions, just give me a chat in the comments below. And for more articles, visit roundthecode.com. I write a lot of .NET articles in there, so go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at roundthecode.com/YouTube, and follow me on Twitter. It's at roundthecode. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time.